Shadows crawling in the bright daylight, voices twisted, feeding us the blight, telling stories that were never true. We fight to break on through. Lies are woven like a velvet chain, slick with power driving us insane. But the fire burns deep within our chests. We fight, we'll never rest. We rise with fists clenched high, tearing through the veil, the sky. Truth's a blade that cuts the dark. We fight, we'll never rest. We rise with fists clenched high, tearing through the veil, the sky. Truth's a blade that cuts the dark. We fight, we make a mark. They call us rebels, say we've lost our way, but freedom's blood, it fuels the fray. From the ashes comes a brighter light. We fight with all our might. See resolve in the roaring storm, breaking cages will rewrite the norm. No more silence, no more disguise. We fight with open eyes. We rise with fists clenched high, tearing through the veil, the sky. Truth's a blade that cuts the dark. We fight, we'll never rest. We rise with fists clenched high, tearing through the veil, the sky. Truth's a blade that cuts the dark. We fight, we make a mark. We fight, we make a mark.
One of the things we're trying to do with Russia and with China is denuclearization. And it's very important. One of the things I discussed with President Putin the other day, it wasn't just that, it was also other things. And I think the denuclearization is it's a big aim, but Russia's willing to do it, and I think China's going to be willing to do it too. We can't let nuclear weapons proliferate. We have to stop nuclear weapons. The power is too great. One of the things we're trying to do with Russia and with China is denuclearization. And it's very important.
Very interesting stuff. Trump admitting he had much more to talk about with Putin than initially let on, just like we talked about here. Funny how that works. Huh, guys? Welcome to the Ace Report. What's up, my friends? It's good to see you all. Hope you had a great weekend. I did. I'm recovering. So I had my fantasy draft last night, and I was up late. It was well worth it. One of my favorite nights of my year, every year, my fantasy football draft. My league has been going for 15 years. And anyways, I'm sure you all care so much about my fantasy team. It's one of the best things to listen about, somebody's fantasy football team, right? Anyways, so a little tired today, but there's so much to talk about. We've had a very interesting day. 3 press conferences with Trump in one day. So plenty to cover, a lot of action. People have been freaking out. We're having the normal Trump freak out. So we're going to have to talk through that a little bit. And then I saw a couple of things that made me really open my eyes a little bit more to this Golden Age stuff. Something I didn't know that I had to research today after learning about it. And so I want to talk about that and how it makes more and more sense that things are lining up to what could be a golden age, and what is giving it away is we've had them in the past in similar situations. So we're going to cover that as well. I'm going to break that down for you guys, and of course go through the news, because Trump is never boring. Just an hour ago, he did something massive. So it's going to be fun. But first, let's say hey to everybody here to Nizite. Nick Majors, numero uno tonight. What's up, my friend? Good to see you, Vince Felice, Charlie M, Toe Cramp, Stephen Cromer, Vin Man, CJ Yukon, what's up? AJ Trader, Charlie M, JoJo, what's happening? Stephen Cromer, Big B, Uncle Andy, Toe Cramp. Don't give it away, Uncle Andy. Barefoot by DC, what's up? Kathy, US1, Lyrical, how's it going, man? Michael Tucker, Big JR. Like and subscribe. Yes, as always, guys, please take a second, hit that like, hit that subscribe if you're new. Greatly appreciated. And if you want more, you can go down, hit that link in the description, get a free month of Patreon. That's the only way to fly. So listen, this is what I saw today. I'm going to cover this first, and then we're going to get into the news. Andy says he's a huge fantasy football guy. My God, I used to do 3 to 4 leagues a year, and it got stressful. So I'll now do up to 2 leagues a year, but usually just the one. My league with my friends and I, that's been going on for so long, and I love it. It's the best. It's so fun. And if you're not doing it, if you're a football fan, you're not doing it. What are you waiting for? As it is absolutely fantastic. Makes the NFL fun no matter what, even if your team sucks. So that's always nice. Because like last year, the Niners sucked. And now that hurt. But I had my fantasy team, which also sucked. But still, it was fun. But anyways, I know you guys are fascinated by all that, but let's get to the main thing I wanted to talk about to start, which is this idea of a golden age. So we've been hearing Trump saying it over and over again, and many in his administration are saying it, like Scott Bessent over and over again, JD Vance. It's and it seems like hyperbole at first, but once you go into it, it makes sense. And the reason why is, well, you know what? I'm not going to tell you the reason why. Let's go through it a little bit. I'm going to take you on my journey first. What started this for me? So I came across this post today, and it says that after the Black Death in Europe, the population exploded and has grown globally ever since. Yet now the world is facing a possible global population collapse by the turn of the century, with the advanced nations already in decline. The Fed and the British system of central banking have implemented this agenda of population decline over the last 125 years. We know that, right? I mean, I think we've well established that so far. We can argue how successful they've been, but whether or not they wanted it, I don't think that's even arguable at this point. So we know, we can look at the policies, we can look at what they've been pushing, from abortion to breaking apart the nuclear family, from making it harder to succeed financially. It's all been designed to collapse our system and our population. And then COVID was a big push on it as well. So what happened after the Black Plague? Well, then there was the golden age of Florence and of Europe generally. There was a surge of creativity from out of the blue after 5 decades of dark age and cultural collapse. Dante's ideas premised this surge, elevating the ancient principles of civilization with the highest sense of human identity and Christian idea of God with his divine comedy, is what he called it. At the end of the plague, great leaders emerged to herald a new era based on these principles. This is the great mission of the MAGA movement, to unleash a new golden age. This got me thinking, because I never put this together before. And I consider myself a student of history. But it's fascinating because right now, America's not so much in a population decline yet, although we're heading in that direction. But what if you consider all the deportations? And so I ran this report together, and I wanted to bring together this outline of how this could work now. And then I'm also going to show one other person who really breaks this down well. But first of all, history teaches that disaster often clears the ground for renewal. After the Black Death, 1347 to 1351, Europe lost up to 60% of its population. Yet within 100 years came the Renaissance, rise of capitalism, banking, and modern science. Could America be in that same kind of transition? Well, then there were fewer workers, massive labor shortages. Peasants could leave manors, demand higher wages, and negotiate contracts, breaking feudal chains. Doesn't that sound very similar to what we're in now? You know, crony capitalism, or corporatism as I like to call it, is a form of feudalism. This is why they instituted the Federal Reserve in 1913. This is what Woodrow Wilson started putting into place. It's the idea is that like it's silent communism that tries to come through, but in a capitalist society, it's corporatism. And what happened? What did our grandparents be raised? You know, our great grandparents, grandparents, however old, depending on how old you are. What were they raised at coming out of the Great Depression and that era? It was get a job and hold on to it for dear life. And they reward you with a pension and a gold watch, and they'll take care of you in that time. But it wasn't the idea that America was founded on, which was entrepreneurism, which was building your own business and growing with your skills until you were able to do your own business and be free to pursue capital and prosperity. And this is even written into the Declaration of Independence, you know, the pursuit of prosperity. And that was all taken away with this idea. It was embedded in us. And I was raised on it. I was raised like, go through school, go to college. It was a must. You go to college and you find a good job. And my parents were hardcore conservative Republicans, but they still believed the message, the corporatist message that is actually slave labor. It's indentured servitude. It's feudalism. Everything is designed to keep us down. In school, you're in little box rooms. You sit there in silence, raise your hand to say yes. Everything is so rules driven. None of it's about innovation. None of it's about creative thinking. It's all about memorizing the rules, memorizing the facts. You're tested not on problem solving, but on memorizing the facts. And that is how they enslaved us over time. And so that is our feudalism, the corporate overlords, the politicians, those people, and some who broke out. You know, that's the great thing about America, is that our system is so strong that people could still break out of it if they were willing, if they were outside thinkers. You know, the most millionaires are C students or college dropouts. It's because they fought the system the whole time. Whereas the A+ students, who are celebrated as heroes in school, they go straight into a job and they never leave. And then 30 years later, they go through a midlife crisis and they're like, what am I even doing with my life? Who am I? They never explored that. They were always told not to. At 5 years old, 98% of kids are tested as creative geniuses. By the time they graduate high school, only 2% are considered creative geniuses. They kill your creative genius. That's the entire point of the school system, the way it's set up. And then they drug the boys for being too rowdy. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's just been getting worse over time. So what happened in this is that as everybody left, and this time it was because of plague, it forced the ones that were left behind. It gave them all this opportunity, and they broke feudal chains. By 1400s, wages were up, serfdom collapsed in much of Western Europe. Today, mass deportations are reducing the pool of cheap illegal labor that kept wages artificially low. Remember we talked last week about how the population numbers are fake? 55 million people here on visas. 55 million. Somewhere between 20 and 40 million people here illegally. So on the low end, we have 75 million immigrants here for cheap labor. On the high end, 95 to 100 million people in our country being used for slave labor, basically. or they're coming over to steal our secrets and take them back home. We could parse it all day long, but the point is, millions upon millions upon millions have taken up our jobs. And I'm going to show you some crazy stuff that came out today about all this too, about how they've just been robbing us. But so fields like construction, trucking, hospitality, agriculture will have to pay Americans fair rates. Short term, the worker shortages and higher prices. Long term, stronger middle class, upward mobility, renewed dignity, and blue collar jobs, which is what it's all about, which is also interesting that the AI revolution is hitting white collar jobs the most. If you're a parent right now and you have that thought, and I'm a parent of 6 kids, so I'm saying this as a parent, okay, especially with one who's 17 and almost done with high school, you have to be rethinking the entire college course that maybe you were raised in like I was, because AI and everything that's happening in our economy, it's going to make 90% of college worthless. And already there's a lot of college that's worthless. Well, it's going to get up to 90%. I'm teaching my kids, I don't care if you guys go to college. I want you to learn business. I want you to learn AI. If you learn those 2 things for work, you're going to be fine. Because I want them thinking creatively. I want them dreaming, and I want them to learn to manage AI. And it's going to unleash a boom of people who can work their own, create their own businesses easily. But we need innovative thinkers in order to do it. Restoring law and order. Then, initial chaos after the plague, social unrest, revolts. But as order returned, towns gained more control, guilds grew, trade revived. Stability created the foundation for long-term growth. Now, crackdown on crime, drug cartels, gangs, rampant thefts, restore safety in cities. Secure the borders, reduce trafficking, fentanyl, and underground economies. Safer neighborhoods equals people invest in homes, schools, and businesses again. Stability is the precondition for prosperity. You see what Trump is doing? I honestly, I've been so on top of all this stuff, but I hadn't thought of it in this way before. And it matches up with the past. It's pretty incredible. And honestly, I hope it gets you excited for what's coming, what's possible. Now there's an economic reorganization. Then after the Black Plague, there was a collapse of feudal obligations that freed markets. Surplus land was redistributed. Agriculture shifted to more efficient practices. The rise of merchant classes and banking families. Today, tariffs are generating $300 to $360 billion per year, reducing federal deficit growth. Manufacturing reshoring equals more jobs in steel, autos, energy, and tech. Energy independence reduces reliance on hostile nations, less strain on welfare, public services with fewer illegals, healthier budgets, essentially a national reset towards production over consumption. This is incredible. It's incredible. Innovation wave, the labor shortages forced innovation, better plows, crop rotation, wind and water mills. This fed the population, supported urban growth, eventually helped trigger the Renaissance. I heard about a year ago, Brett Weinstein and Peter Thiel did a fascinating interview. And in the interview, they talked about how in the sciences, there's currently a well-known trend that has been happening for the last 50 years. And the trend is this, that other than computers and mobile devices, there has been almost no innovation worldwide. And if you think about it, it's actually very true. Think about how every innovation, quote unquote, has been towards green energy, which is kind of like actually stepping backwards. It's been in cheap goods, which is from overseas, making things cheaper, which is cheating, or even worse, taking advantage of people. And then the other innovation has just been tech. Tech keeps growing. But we haven't changed much about how we do our crops. We haven't done it better anyways. We might do it faster, but we're killing the soil. You can just go area by area. There's been modest innovations, but nowhere near the massive innovations we had from the founding of our country until about the 1970s. And so and this is a well-established trend. So innovation stalled. Why? You ever seen the theory about 1971? It's called like basically what the F happened in 1971. How so many things changed. The wage disparity grew. Obviously, in 1971, we decoupled the dollar from gold. There's just a whole lot of crazy stuff that's happened since 1971, and one of those is the end of innovation. This will force innovation. The labor shortages and changing our nation, reshaping the demographics of our nation. So now with higher labor costs, businesses accelerate AI adoption, automation, robotics. Productivity gains equal higher output without needing endless cheap labor. Potential parallels. AI equals the new printing press. It reorganizes knowledge, speeds up creativity, and spreads opportunity. Can trigger an American tech renaissance of steered toward productivity, not distraction. I want to tell you guys right now, I work with AI all the time. And I'm here to tell you that, it's not going anywhere. So good luck. If you're a doomer about AI, you're going to have to figure that out, because it's either we embrace it and use it for good and it goes in a good way, or you run and it's just going to leave you in the dust. So it's the Industrial Revolution all over again, or like this says, like a printing press. It is that massive. I can do the work of 9 to 10 people in my job now. That used to be, when I first got into my industry, I was on a team of 9 people, and now I do the job of all of those people and then have some time to spare. It's I'm more productive than I've ever been, and it's from learning to manage AI. So, and if you guys are in my Patreon, you have access to the course I taught on that last year of how to use AI to start up a business and everything. But anyways, it's just, there's no way around it. Okay. And just like everything else in history, every major innovation in history, people are scared. People are worried because it's a massive change. But you know what? Every other major innovation in history, steam, steam engines, electricity, I mean, the telephone, think about it. All this stuff changed our world overnight, it felt like. And people were scared. And yet we adapted and we grew more prosperous. That's going to happen again. And then finally, the cultural and spiritual renewal. Then the plague made people rethink mortality and meaning, sparked art, philosophy, and eventually the Reformation, explosion of faith movements and truth-seeking. Now, after the pandemic, censorship, war fatigue, people see the failures of global leaps and crave something real. Families are moving back to church, which is true. Gen Z is massively converting to Christianity. We have reversed the trend where Christianity was dipping down in America for the last few decades. The trend just reversed for the first time, and now it's heading back up. So we bottomed at about 63%. Now we're back up to about 67% of Americans are Christian. So there is a mass revival happening. Families moving back to church, homeschooling on the rise. That's to protect our kids from the school system, which has gotten so bad, and keep their ingenuity. And then renewed focus on patriotism. Christianity could see a revival as people look for truth outside of government media lies. A return to faith plus strong families equals the cultural engine of renewal. And then just in conclusion, it says, golden ages don't come from ease. They're born from disruption, struggle. Just like the 14th century devastation cleared the way for the Renaissance, America's upheaval, mass deportations, crime crackdowns, economic restructuring can set the stage for prosperity. So guys, why am I saying all this? Because as I go through the news again tonight here in a few minutes, I just want you to be seeing how much chaos and upheaval is happening in our country. We're seeing stuff going on that just hasn't happened. There was like the 60s and the 70s, there was a little bit of upheaval, but nothing like what we're seeing now in the political area. We saw it in the, other than maybe the civil rights movement, but we saw it in the people, the protests with Vietnam and all that, but the change, there was still not a reversal of the bad trends of America. We were still heading in that direction. The trends that started in the early 1900s, especially around 1913. That trend of a growing government, a weakening people, a more corporate state, less capitalism, more corporatism, that trend kept progressing. This is the first time we're seeing the reversal of it, and the reversal of the elitism, the globalism. It's starting to reverse, and that's why it's so important to recognize how all of this can lead to really good things, and we can be thankful at some point. You know, the Bible, Romans 8:28, is one of the great verses of the Bible. You know, everything, God works everything together for the good of those who love him. In other words, no matter how crappy things get, God, if you have faith, can turn something good out of it. And we are still a praying people. We're still a nation mostly of people of faith. And I believe that is saving our nation and getting us back on track. I believe God's heard our prayers, and I believe God's starting to turn this nation around in miraculous ways. The exposure to me is proving that what Trump is doing and many of the states are doing is proving that to me. We are reversing decades, almost over 100 years of bad policy. And I really do think we're about to enter a golden age. And here's one more post I wanted to share with you guys, because this is just so good. This is just another good breakdown of what a golden age could be like and why. But it says, you know why it won't take all that long for the golden age of America to get kickstarted? You have all grown up in your entire lives in a crippled country that was being massively and ruthlessly exploited, manipulated, and most importantly, looted. For 100+ years, an elite cult looted our treasury and increased taxes, fees, and penalties upon us to maximize their profits, extracting from us. Then they used our money for their projects, America Last projects. You have never seen what America will look like when, instead of having that $700 billion or whatever the actual amount turns out to be, looted and laundered to be sent outside of our country, the $700 billion yearly stays right here and gets used by America First patriots for projects here. None of you have ever experienced this, assuming you're not over 100 years old. You've come of age in America where you were told this is just the way things are, get used to it. There were hundreds of billions shoveled out the door of the Treasury to shady NGOs, as well as additional hundreds of billions shipped overseas as foreign aid. What that added up to over the last 100 years is a mind-blowing statistic. What would our country look like right now if that 50 trillion or whatever it stayed right here? Just imagine that, guys. So this is why he's saying it can turn around so fast. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It's very long. But what Trump is doing, I mean, the outsourcing of our wealth. And don't get me wrong, a prosperous people should be a generous people. I believe that's a duty of a prosperous people. But it's not our duty to be stolen from, to have it taken from us. Our agency in making that choice to be generous was stolen from us. And instead it was used to launder corrupt system of people who hated us because our freedom, our system stood in their way of being as powerful as they would like to be. And so we're reversing that, and it's a glorious time. So knowing all that, we're going to go into the news tonight, and I think you're going to be able to see how this is all trending in that direction. Toe wants to know who shut. Yeah, it was Brian Cates. It's right here. All right, you know Brian Cates, Toe. Moody says in law school, A students make good academics, B students make good lawyers, C students make all the money. Is that true? I've never heard there. That's great. Christina Abbott argues with AI and sometimes apologizes. Yes, it's easy to argue with AI because it doesn't know everything. Plague is in California. What's that, Cromer? ABC says it ended the Black Death Crusades and the division of labor, ended the Middle Ages, gave birth to the Renaissance, ended manor field owners, landlords, allowed the birth of art and business. Exactly. And what is that? That's a form of freedom. That's what happens when people are free. They express themselves in business and art. That's very true. Ken Gamble, can I answer why the naked shorts are so untouchable? I don't think they're untouchable. And we'll talk about that towards the end here, because I have something on the economy we're going to talk about that actually does have to do with naked shorts and where I think it's going to unravel and where people like Bam and Pedro think it could too. Alan Krentz says in Rome era after Octavian, Augustus, Tiberius, Christ, year silver. Rome declined with Caligula, Claudius, Nero persecuted Christians, then Jews revolt, Mule Emperor Vespasian, Golden Age, Rome. Alan, I think I know what you're trying to say, but I'm kind of, are you just saying in order? That's how Rome got to its golden age? I mean, there's been several golden ages in history, and they've all come out of hard times. That's just the fact. There's that meme that goes around that says, strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. Oh, it's hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create bad times, something like that, hard times. And that is a cycle of history. But here's the thing about cycles of history. History doesn't repeat itself. Do you know that? It's a very popular saying that history repeats itself. It doesn't. That's actually not true. And no true historian believes that. But what it does do is it often rhymes. But if history repeated itself, we want to keep growing in innovation. And if you chart back to about 2,000 years, for the last 2,000 years, humanity has continually innovated. We've gone through hard times. It's like we're this graph that, like, it's dip up, slow dip up, and we keep going up. Like, and technology has just made life so much better. Innovation has made life so much better in so many ways. That's been the trend for the last 2,000 years. So history doesn't repeat itself, but it does often rhyme. Here's the thing: the more we learn, the more we educate, the better we raise our children, our grandchildren, the more we can avoid those mistakes again. And have you ever noticed really strong families that come into wealth, where the founder of the company or whatever still raises their kids to know responsibility and to know a little like struggle? Those, they end up taking over the company or taking it to the next level, and they still grow good, versus the ones who spoil their kids. And those are the ones, or abuse their kids. If you spoil a kid or abuse them, you set them up for failure. There's a right way to parent, and it's hard. It takes a lot of effort and energy, but there is a right way to do it. And those are the ones that they will carry on dynasties. So it is possible to avoid the hard times and avoid raising weak men. But, and you know, by men, I mean everybody. But you get what I mean. Vinman says, Japan's offering foreigners move to the suburbs with $15,000 a year for 2 to 3 years, plus housing, job placement assistance, and the Japanese want Americans. Yeah, they do. And you know what they're also paying for? You to breed with their women. I'm not even joking. Yeah, no, there's a lot of weird stuff with AI, but I'll tell you what, I use the AI all the time. A lot of the stuff with AI that people have problems with, it's just because they don't know what they're doing. I'll just be honest. Anyways, a lot of the horror stories of AI too are just they're media taking something and blowing it out of proportion. So be careful on that as well. Okay. So what was that, Moody? What do you need more about? Anyways, okay, let's keep going through here on some of the stuff today. So today there was an executive order where Trump banned the burning of the American flag, and the MAGA's in an uproar. Well, this is not what I voted for. This is an anti-free speech. The Supreme Court's already does this free speech. Absolutely right. That's all right. But the problem is nobody actually read the executive order when they started doing this. And here's a great post by Cynical Publius breaking it down. It says, everyone's comparing the Trump flag burning executive order with burning a rainbow flag. If you can go to jail for burning a rainbow flag, why can't you go to jail for burning a U.S. flag? That's a weak analogy, and the issue in reality is far more complex. You know what? This is not the right post. Sorry, guys. Where is it? Oh, he had a great post on this. I thought that was the one. That's not the one. Oh, here it is. Okay, it says, I cannot believe how many MAGA people are freaking out regarding the flag burning EO. Please, please, please read the actual EO and not what people are saying about it. The EO itself is basically saying enforce already existing laws, but in doing so in a manner as to goad Democrats into burning flags on TV. Trump has done nothing here to change First Amendment law. So once MAGA wakes up to this, which is absolutely right, if you read the text of it, it specifically says we're not targeting any of the Supreme Court protected free speech areas. It says if this is done to rile up violence, it's very specific how it's worded. There's a lot of exceptions. The EO is very magnificently done. But, Trump gets the headline, banning flag burning. So everybody gets to freak out. Well, this is, again, Trump goading them. I completely agree with this. Trump is such a master at doing this. This is going to lead the Democrats to look stupid again, because you know what people hate? Yeah, people will hear this and they'll be mad at first. Trump's banning free speech, blah, blah, blah. This is terrible. This is authoritarian. But then watch what happens when liberals, I've already seen this. One guy already was doing this on X. People saying, oh yeah, you want to tell me I can't burn a flag? Watch this. People burn flags. You know what people hate to see? The American flag getting burned. That's like an 80-20 issue. Even people who believe you should be allowed to do it, people hate it. They don't want to see it. It's disgusting to them. It's repulsive. So a bunch of people are going to do it. People are going to be repulsed by it. And Trump's going to be able to say, well, we're not going after the people doing free speech. That's not what's in there. And he's going to look like a genius again, while they're all going to look like fools. And that's what's happening. So again, every time Trump does something, the reactive freak out, especially when it comes from the MAGA right side, I've only ever seen it justified once or twice. And both those times Trump went back on what he said. And he changed it. So I'm telling you guys, like, everybody chill out. But again, just like we were talking about in the golden age part, it's the chaos, it's the disorder, it's the disruption Trump is causing, and it's all for good reason. It's bringing out the bad actors. COVID crimes. Who else talked about golden age in 2025? Alice Bailey. I'll look into that, but it doesn't mean anything more than so in the spiritual world, do you know that so the spiritual realm is real, believe it or not. Okay. And it's the same for the bad and the good. So demons can take what they know from the spiritual realm that's good, and they can pervert it, or they can use it. It's interesting that the Mayans calendar ran out in 2012, and that's also when the stars started shifting in a new alignment, and we're entering into a new 2,000-year cycle of the stars. Isn't that interesting? It's like a new age began, not the end of the world, but a new age began. So just because somebody who's might be into evil sees something on the horizon in a spiritual way does not mean it's evil what's coming. The Magi who came to Jesus were not Jews. They definitely weren't Christians. There was no Christians back then. No, they were occultists. They were magicians from a different land. And yet they read the sign in the sky and found the King, Jesus, and brought him gifts. So it's completely possible. You don't have to be a Christian to see what's coming. So that is interesting, but it doesn't mean anything scary to me. AI's dramatically increased comedic relief. Van Man burning plastic flags hurts Gaia. Well, that's something. The elites are definitely looking at the markets. They're looting them, and yeah, there's stuff coming on that. Uncle Andy says Trump's birthday is on Flag Day. He's connected. Absolutely, it is. You know whose else's birthday was on Flag Day? My father's, which is kind of weird. So that's pretty interesting. All right. So so Trump in his conferences today. So he did the executive order, then he did the South Korean president, and then he had a third. So he had 3 press times today. So there's a lot of clips from him, but a couple of the interesting things he said right here. He said, calling out the deep state, and I'll just play this little clip for you guys.
Are more raids like that coming, sir? Are more raids like the one on John Bolton's house coming?
More raids? I don't know. You'd have to ask the Department of Justice. They raided my house, I can tell you that. They did a big raid on my house. They took away everything that wasn't pinned down, and they took away some of that too. No, they raided Mar-a-Lago. They started that. And these were bad people that we had in our government before. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They went into my wife's area. They went into my son's area, my young son. And what they did was a disgrace. But how did it work out? Oh, I see. We're in the overall. Oh, I guess it didn't work out too well for them, did it? They are bad people. They're sick. They're sick people. And they came in with their guns into Mar-a-Lago, like 98 people. I wasn't there. Fortunately, I wasn't there. But they are very evil, very sick people, that group. And they.
You hear him? He's very specific in his words. He calls them very evil and very sick. How interesting is that? See, Trump is calling these people out because he knows exactly who's behind it. Remember, if you track the timeline of Epstein, around the time Trump kicked Epstein out is also the time when he turned on all of them. Trump rejected them. He rejected their evil. He was in the club, but he didn't know how dark it was. Once he figured out how dark it was, he left, and they've never stopped punishing him for it. But he won, and I believe it's because he's God ordained to do this. So Trump here is calling him out. And you know that when they raided Mar-a-Lago and he wasn't there, they went with guns. They had authority to shoot. I have a feeling that if Trump was there, they were going to find an excuse to shoot him. I really do believe that. And so that's how crazy this goes down the rabbit hole. But Trump, again, does that sound like a man who's going to let this go? You don't speak like that. When you're part of the club, you do not speak like that. Go back and watch. Well, I mean, you don't want to do that. You're not junkies like I am, okay? Who wants to take the time to do this? But if you ever go back and watch, or you just can remember, think about Bush and Obama and Clinton. Or even Bush 1. We're talking Republicans and Democrats, very different to us, right? We thought they were different. At least most of us did. They were better at hiding it back then before the internet. They never spoke of each other like this. It was always more respectful. It was always with my colleagues and I disagree on this, stuff like that. There was never calling out the actual evil, the actual sickness, the actual perversion until Trump. And his language is very telling and very important because it tells you he's different. There's a reason they've tried to kill him multiple times. And it's because he's breaking their system to bring in a golden age. So, what are you talking about, COVID? Are you trying to say Trump's a Freemason? I mean, if that's what you're saying, you're completely wrong. But I'm gonna trust that maybe you're saying something else. Here we go. Trump on sending in the National Guard to other cities.
Mr. President, on the National Guard, you've talked a lot about Democratic-run cities and states. Yeah. Would you also consider sending the National Guard into red states and red cities that are also seeing high crime?
Sure, but there aren't that many of them. If you look at the top 25 cities that for crime, just about every one of those cities is run by Democrats.
Do you guys notice that D.C. right now is peaceful? It's as peaceful as it's been in decades, if ever, at least since it's been a city. And Trump now is putting it out there, getting everybody in a tizzy that he might release the National Guard into other places to get them down. Now, the people on the surface, feels uncomfortable. But at the same time, there's many people calling for it because these Democratic mayors, city councils have allowed crime to go so rampant. They're desperate. The people are getting desperate. And Trump, as the president of the entire nation, he feels a responsibility to bring this, but it also can weed out their corruption, their little fiefdoms. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. We're watching carefully, but you know that, he started at D.C. because D.C. is federal. As federal, that means the president has jurisdiction over it as a city. In the United States, the president, the balance of power means that you can only do something like this in a true emergency. So it's going to be interesting to see what they use in order to do this. I do think it's coming. I don't think it's going to be martial law or anything crazy like that. I think it's going to be very much like DC. Peaceful. They just shut down the crime. They're there getting along with everybody. I do not see martial law happening out of this. Now, if he does, and I'm wrong, crazy, at some point, if all these people who hate Trump and think he's one of them are right, at some point, they're going to be proven right. They haven't yet. They haven't even come close to being proven right. In fact, we win the argument every stinking day. Because as soon as they think they're close to something, their narrative gets blown apart and we get proven right again. But there's always the kicking the can down the road. So maybe at some point we're all proven wrong and Trump's actually this great dictator and on their same team, even despite all the evidence pointing against it. But I'll tell you that I don't see that's going to happen that way. There's a reason why the Democrats are freaking out about this. Again, when they were a uniparty, the Bushes, the Clintons, Obama, when they were a uniparty, it was never at each other's throats the way they are now. There was never panic the way there is now. This is 100% different. And that to me has always been one of the greatest pieces of evidence that Trump is doing this stuff for the people. So now it says, my understanding is this credit social score like in China was passed but not implemented yet. That's not true at all. What do you have to be to say that? So now what? And now you're saying there's martial law with the arrest start, so you're on the side. Where did you see something about a social credit score? I'd be very interested in that. That would have to be something Trump signed into law, and that means it would have had to be in the one big beautiful bill, and I know for a fact it wasn't. So I'm interested in where you thought that comes from. Mishler says, I don't care if Trump sends a National Guard to every major city in the U.S. We need to fix what's broken. Until that's done, nothing should be off the table. Exactly. See, guys, you realize we are in a war, right? We actually are in a war. We are in a state of emergency. And it's not obvious to most, but the truth is that's exactly what Trump is. He's a wartime president. See, Toe Cramp says, my brother's insane progressive leftist and blown up his phone. Exactly. Look at this. Trump signed an executive order creating the National Rapid Response Task Force, a specialized National Guard unit designed to deploy to any American city within an hour to suppress riots or democratic unrest. Isn't that interesting? Could that be why we didn't get a second summer of love, as many predicted, and it looked like we might get at the beginning of the summer? Democrats don't want Trump to send a National Guard to help make their city safer, but we're completely fine when Tim Walz used the National Guard to treat Minnesota residents like this during COVID. And yes, look what Tim Walz did with the National Guard during COVID to make sure people were not outside. And yet, they're telling us Trump can't do this. Look at that. That's those rubber bullets. Oh, paint. I mean, that's crazy, guys. That's the National Guard in Minnesota during COVID. So just don't, you can never trust what these people say. They are the biggest liars, and they did it first. They attacked the American people first. So everything Trump is doing is just restoring what they stole. They broke the norms. He's bringing them back. But in order to do so, we're going to have to do some stuff that isn't fun. But for everybody who screams Trump's a dictator, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, which means the right to due process was gone during most of the Civil War. In order to save the nation, President Lincoln, who's considered our second greatest president after Washington, maybe our greatest president, even the left can't ignore that. President Lincoln broke all kinds of constitutional norms in order to save the republic. So this is what, what Trump's doing. And it does have historical precedent. Donald Trump is the last Trump of 1 Corinthians 15. The last Trump or trumpet, is that what you're trying to say? Okay, so Trump today fired Fed Governor Lisa Cook. He hasn't fired Powell, but he like they exposed her for mortgage fraud, and Trump actually went through with it and just fired her. This is massive news. This has never happened before. A president firing a Fed governor. This is going to be challenged. It's going to be fought in court. But guys, this is massive. This is wild. Okay, this is something they never thought Trump would do, and they didn't believe he'd actually go through with it. But it's also showing that Trump is not afraid. And this is also a shot across the bow to Powell. Tighten it up. I'm installing it. And he's also, what has Trump said many times? I want to abolish the income tax. Well, Trump now is going after the Fed to completely remake the Fed. That's pretty wild. And he was able to do this because SCOTUS gave Trump the power. Supreme Court obliterated deep state's final line of defense, granting President Trump full authority to fire the heads of independent federal agencies. No more delays, no more red tape, no more protection for unelected traitors. The court declared Trump's the executive branch. So we're going to be seeing more of this, folks. It's going to keep progressing because, again, this will be challenged. I believe Trump and them will win a challenge, but it might take some time. But if this is challenged and they win, it's only going to open up the floodgates. And if it's not challenged, that'll also open up the floodgates. One way or the other, this is going to push a lot, open it up so he can push a lot of deep state actors out fast. So he's clearing the decks, he's restoring order, and he's doing it in this way that feels like chaos because it's so different than what we're accustomed to. But this is how you get to a golden age. And then how do you prolong a golden age? Well, check this out. The trends are more and more there. Trump announced he'll file a lawsuit to block Newsom's gerrymandering in California. This might not pass anything, but you know what this is going to do? It's going to slow it down. So even if Newsom could get it through the constitutional amendment he's trying to get in California, even if he can get this done, now it's going to be slowed down. And it might not happen before the midterms. Trump is he's firing on all cylinders. And it's very interesting to me because what was the last time I came on live, guys, last week? There was a little story from Alex Jones about how tired Trump looked. Pray for him. He looks weak. And I told you guys, that's fake news. That's like leftist propaganda. They're trying to get it out there that Trump is mentally, they're reaching for anything they have. Because the truth is he's firing on all cylinders. Look at everything he is doing in just the last couple of days. It is amazing. And then you got the Democrats freaking out, the gerrymander stuff. And now they're all trying to push, let's get DC as a state again. Here's Rich Barris calling out here. Here's him calling it out again. Oops. DC statehood. They're trying to push this again. Why? Because if DC's declared a state, they get 2 senators who they know will be Democrat because they're 93% Democrat, and at least another representative. But they really want it for the Senate because statehood is like a city can be a state. You know how stupid this is? Do you want to know an insanely stupid idea it is to make DC a state? And yet there's only one reason to do it. It's a power grab. This never will happen on Trump's watch. Never. But the push is coming again. And why? Because the future is looking so bleak for them. So he's fighting the gerrymander. They're coming out with this, and this is why. With Texas getting 5 new seats, Florida just announced they're about to gerrymander theirs more. Ohio's going to get more red seats, and there's a couple other states looking at doing it. And then you have the 2030 reapportionment from the census. And this is what they're losing. Illinois, California, New York, Rhode Island are all losing seats. And there's a couple others in there too. Texas, Florida, Utah, and Idaho all gaining. What do these 4 states over here have in common? All deep red. Georgia and Arizona are due to gain 1 too. They're mostly red. But these 4 are deep red, and they're gaining the most seats. They are falling apart. Right now, the Republicans have a 220 to 215 majority. It's barely anything. And that's with everything against us. Them controlling the country the last 4 years, them going after Trump like crazy. It's with everything going against us and all of their states being super gerrymandered and the red states not. Well, the red states are now fighting back. With the gerrymandering the red states are going to do, the redistricting, and then this reapportionment, there's going to be a wall of about 240 to 250 red seats that are going to be nearly impossible for the Democrats to win unless there's a seismic shift in the Democratic Party, which that is not happening anytime soon. This is what's coming. If the population projections hold in 2032, a Democratic presidential candidate who wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada will still lose the presidency. Guys, we're looking at the possibility of MAGA running this country for anywhere for the next 12 to 20 years because of this. That is how decisive 2024 is. That's how massively important that victory is. Because the Republican Party, we're not going to let the Republican Party stay the old Republican Party. This will be the MAGA Republican Party. We will continue to purge it. That is not going to stop. MAGA is the biggest ideological base in the country. So these are going to be MAGA, a MAGA Republican Party that could be in charge of our country for 20 years. That, my friends, sounds like building a golden age. That really does, and that could keep happening. So now it says Alex Jones is a plant by bad actors. He might be, and he's starting to show a lot of ridiculous stuff. Moody says, what was the name of the case that gave Trump authority to fire? I don't know. I'm sorry, Moody. I don't know off the top of my head. And it wasn't in there. That was just talking about the Supreme Court. Wisconsin's a place for illegals to hide. Well, they're trying, but it's not working. Let's keep going. Now, here's more on the immigration side of things, how crazy things are. Again, exposure is important, and it also is what we need to clear them out in order to get that population shift we need to break out of the corporatism we're currently in. Half of all H-1Bs are completely fraudulent. You see this? This is insane. This is from a story in Bloomberg. Can you believe they're actually reporting the news for once? Nearly half of the H-1Bs in Bloomberg's analysis went to outsourcing or staffing companies that was supposed to bring in the best talent, turned into a backdoor for offshoring. Here is the breakdown. So our H-1B visa thing that Elon was championing is fraudulent. How many of these are from that 55 million that the Trump administration is revisiting? 20 million? 35 million? I don't know. But every one of these, this will give them an excuse to ship them home. Guys, that is a massive clearing of the decks. So we could have out of this, let's call it 80 million. Let's just pick a random in-between number of the extremes, low and high, of how many immigrants are here, both illegal and legal. 80 million. If we get 80 million out of this, if we could send home the vast majority of the illegals, so that's 30 million, say, and then we can send home 30 million out of the 55 legally here. I'm being very optimistic, obviously, but if that's 60 million people gone, less welfare to them, less resources, less services, all gone and back just for the American people with our dollars now here investing. Imagine what that does for personal growth and wealth. Imagine how that can reshore our country. Even, and now just do it even smaller. Even if it's only 30 million we get rid of, or 40 million, or 25 million, that is so much money back in the wallets of the American people. I'm optimistic. I think we're going to get towards that higher number. It's going to take a few years, but I believe we can do it. Already, we are having immigration decline, where it's actually outflowing instead of inflowing for the first time in like 75 years. So amazing stuff. What's up, Donna? Jim Boswell, 5-star. What's going on? Hey guys, please. Thank you, Toe. Take a second, hit that like if you're enjoying this, if you're learning anything, if you're getting excited, hit that like. I appreciate it. And if you're new, please subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're on X, hit that repost. Thank you so much. And if you want more members lives, Discord access, you can join for free for a month on Patreon by clicking the link in the description. Thank you guys. All right, got a little bit more here. This is how fraudulent our system is. An Indian Walmart vice president made $30,000 a day in illegal kickbacks by discriminating against American applicants in favor of Indian H-1B applicants, paying him kickbacks for hiring them. Walmart's kickback scandal. Do you guys hear this? Or see this? This is so fraudulent. And there also today was exposed in Canada, which I know it's not our country, but in Canada, if you hired a foreigner, the Canadian government is paying many companies 30% of their salary. So there you go. They are purposely making it easy to import because they want to destroy our national identity, our family structure, our culture. They want to destroy all of it. And we're fighting back here in America. Hopefully it starts spreading to Canada, the UK, and so on and so forth. But the more this gets exposed, the better. Some great news here. RFK advisor Asim Malhotra says the Trump administration is preparing to pull the COVID vaccine off the U.S. market within months. So this could be coming soon, where the COVID vaccine could be completely gone soon, guys. So RFK doing the good work. What a godsend him partnering with Trump was. He definitely helped push us over in the election, and now as health secretary, just doing amazing things. So that's a huge win right there. Now, the last couple of things I want to talk about is the economy, because there is a lot of red flags starting to pop up about possible crash coming again. And in that, we're still dealing with this. Hedge funds win review of SEC short sale disclosure rule. So today, the hedge funds in a federal appeals court, they won their review of this short sale rule, and so it's not going to be implemented for for even longer. They're pushing it. This is going to push it back indefinitely. So this looks like a massive win for the short sellers, right? Personally, I think this is good. It's exposure's coming out. It sucks. Don't get me wrong, but it can end up good, because this could eventually go up to the Supreme Court. In other places, it'll bring more exposure, but it also, to me, seems like this could be one of their last big wins before it breaks. Because once this thing breaks, if the stock market breaks, it's going to crush them. And I believe Trump has a plan for when this all plays out. I really do, because a stock market crash will allow the crisis that's needed to implement a lot more stuff on the economy and on the markets than he could do otherwise. It'll make it much easier. We have the housing affordability crisis. It's 2008, but 10 times worse. So there's still these things that we have to deal with that haven't corrected, and they have to play out no matter how good Trump does. And then we have the U.S. stock market hit its most expensive valuation in history, surpassing the dot-com bubble in the run-up to the Great Depression. That's a sign of a crash coming every single time. You see, each time we hit the high before, boom, 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 all down. So it's coming one way or the other, I believe. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how bad it'll be. But I do believe it's coming, and I believe in that is when Trump's going to be able to fix these things. And I also believe some of us will see short squeezes in some of these stocks that are so heavily manipulated, because it's just going to break them. So Vince says, my thoughts on 600,000 Chinese students coming over. I don't think that's what Trump said. If you actually listen to the clip, he never says we're bringing them over. He says, yeah, sure, we're going to let Chinese students in. He's like, like 600,000. Well, you know what the combined total is of the Chinese students from the last 2 years was? It was like 277 and 297. It was basically 600,000. I think he was just quoting the numbers from the last couple of years, because he never says we're letting 600,000 in. He doesn't say that. So I think Trump, as he kind of meanders sometimes when he's talking this thing through, I think that was one of his deals. Everybody's freaking out about it. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, and Trump will come out and clarify himself. I don't think I am. But we'll see what happens. But again, I think it's just a MAGA freak out, just like they're freaking over the flag thing today without actually reading it. But when you actually listen to the words, how he said it, he doesn't say, I'm letting in 600,000. He pauses after a sentence, and then he just throws out that number, which happens to be the number combined of the last 2 years of Chinese students. So again, maybe I'm wrong. I'll be proven wrong. But usually on the Trump stuff, how many times have I been proven right versus the Panikins? So far, I'm batting 100%. So maybe I'll take a loss, but I like where I'm standing right now. And if I take a loss, I'm going to be like 155-1. So never side with the Panikins. And people are panicking over that, which tells me it's probably not right. I actually watched it. It's not what he said, but we'll see. We'll see. Moody says, I want to come to America to escape the invasion in Canada. Man, we'd love to have you over here, Moody. It'd be great. Our northern border is still wide open. Yeah, she can just come over and stay here. I love it. So, guys, listen. I still, when I look at all this stuff, I see good things. I see the trend in the right direction. I see a man, our leader, who's committed. I see him continually working within the law to do this. That's the other thing. When I saw that EO pass, I was like, that doesn't sound like Trump, because Trump always abides within the law. He does. And that's why what he does is so effective, because it's legal. He's not breaking Constitution when he does this stuff. So again, he sticks within the law, and I see a man committed to doing that, a team that's brilliant at knowing how to use the law and understanding even old laws that he can still use that haven't been used forever. And they're so smart. And that's what I continue to see. So I'm extremely hopeful for what's coming. And I'm just getting more excited by the day. I don't know about you guys, but I also think things are about to ramp up. And if we do get a market crash, which might be coming, BAM's model is flashing for it to come soon. If that does happen, it'll be freaky. It'll be crazy. But ultimately, I think they're going to use it to get a lot of good things done. Remember Rahm Emanuel in 2009 with Obama said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And what did they do? They used it to reshore up the financial system, to bridge the gap between the rich and poor even further. They used it to enrich their buddies and themselves. And Obama created the worst system in American history for our finances and our ability to move ahead. He used the crisis. They loved that crisis happened. Well, now the crisis is going to happen with our guy in charge. And I think really good things will come out of it, just like really good things came out of the last crisis for the globalists. This could be the great reversal, but we'll see how it plays out. Anyways, love you guys. Hey, before you go, please like, share, subscribe. This will be the end of the show for tonight. I'm going to pray, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. But again, please take a second, hit that like, hit that subscribe if you don't mind. Share it with a friend if you gain something valuable from this. And guys, I just really believe things are going to keep getting better, and I think we're nowhere near the best yet. I think the best is coming, and for years to come. I really do. So Heavenly Father, thank you for everything you're doing, Lord, through President Trump. I just see our country heading in the right direction in so many ways. Thank you for that. Thank you for reshoring up this country, your people, Lord, who've prayed for it, who've suffered, who've been stolen from. God, we just pray, like in Joel, that, Lord, everything the locusts have eaten is returned, or in the book of Job, where Job suffered, and then at the end of his life, God restored to him double everything that had been taken from him, and then he lived the rest of his life in peace. That's what I'm praying for our country, especially for the people in this country who have struggled for so long. So, Lord, we bless them. We bless President Trump with protection, wisdom, and boldness, God, and his whole team. And I just bless everybody in this chat, Lord, with all their needs to be met, the miracles they need to happen, God, whether it's financially, relationally, or something else, God. Just bless them. And thank you for all you're doing. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, love you. Have a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.